Through this presentation, I'll be talking about stress, anxiety, and arousal, and using scenarios to adapt these three things to. One scenario is Nick, who plays badminton. Nick has been struggling to play well all season. The new coaches try to reassure him and say how good he is and how he should be doing for the college. They've been giving extra coaching time and have developed his game plan with new initiative strategies. Nick is feeling nauseous before games and never seems to be able to apply the tactic in the games. He struggles to play the more precise and accurate shots. If he makes an error, his performance falls apart. Incidentally, he is an A-grade student, but constantly worries about his grades and spends hours doing homework. The other scenario is Sarah, who plays netball. Sarah is the netball squad just seems to fail. Sarah in the netball squad just seems to fail in league games against Lewis and Barney with a 32% scoring average. Yet in training session over local games, her scoring average is 86%. The college often schedule these crunch games to end of the season when many spectators can watch. Interestingly, some of the other players in Sarah's team, such as centre Rachel, have not been very supportive and don't understand or accept Sarah's poor performance in the crunch games of the league. Sarah is aware of Rachel's attitude to her. Rachel just seems to thrive on the atmosphere and challenge of the tough games, has received player of the game several times. Stress. Stress is a primary response. When we are stressed, the body switches to fight or flight as feel as we are under a threat. This releases a variety of chemicals and prepares us for physical action. There are many ways to define stress. A simple definition is stress occurs when pressure exceeds your perceived ability to cope. This was brought forward by S. Palmer, 1999. More complex definition of stress was brought forward by Lazarus, 1991. He said that stress is normally discussed in relation to an imbalance between the demands of a situation and the perceived ability to cope or adjustment to these demands. We can adapt this to Sarah and her situation. From her, we can see that her training has a scoring average of 36%. During league games, it's only 32%. No, during training, she has a scoring percent of 86%, but during league games, it's only 32%. This can be seen as stressed as she's unable to cope with the demands of the situation she is in. Stress has a good and bad effect on people. Certain amounts of stress can be better for someone else. Everyone has the optimum level of stress. The good version of stress is eustress. This stress is where the performer has a good reaction to the stress, allowing the performer to reach an optimum level of arousal. This stress provides the performer with a challenge to concentrate and focus on. This also motivates them to beat this challenge. Once the challenge is complete, there is satisfaction with coping with stress. From the graph, we are able to see the levels of stress in the performance, with eustress giving out the higher level of performance and being calm, and distress having a lower level of performance. We are also able to see this from Sarah's scenario, yet from Rachel in this situation. It says she thrives off the atmosphere and challenge from the tough games, which has made her receive player of the game many times. This shows that Rachel copes with the stress and uses it as a challenge to focus, allowing her performance to improve and receive player of the match. The opposite of eustress is distress. This stress is perceived as bad stress and lowers our performance. This is a very extreme version of anxiety, nervousness, worry, or the fear of failing or losing. This causes us to stress too much and making our performance drop due to this. It's also because they are unable to meet the demands of the situation. This can be seen in Nick's situation. He feels very nauseous before games, and this could be caused by stress, making him feel this way and anxious about his performance. This then affects his performance during the match, and he's unable to play the tactics that he's learned, and his performance then begins to fall apart. There can be many reasons for stress. Some of these may include the sports environment which they're in. This could be the audience which is watching them. The competition also may be a factor to the stressor. If you are worrying about the competition, this could be a challenge or a threat, as they could be better than you. Personal life, an example of this is family. Something could be going on between someone and a family member causing stress, or social disapproval. External, such as a major life event, such as death within the family, this can cause a huge amount of stress. Lifestyle factors and internal factors, such as thinking they are bad and not performing well, which puts them down. For example, an external factor to Nick might be that he is constantly worried about getting high grades at school. Stress process. Stress is processed through certain ways with the two types of stress. As the demand is met by the performer, which is the stressor, the performer chooses how to deal with the stress, either accepting the stress and using this as a challenge, which is positive perception, or treating it as a threat, which is negative perception. This is then passed on to how the stress is categorized. If the stress experience is positive and increases energy and motivation, this leads to neurostress. If not, this could increase worry and lead to distress. Neurostress increases athletes' performance, while distress is a negative effect and decreases their performance. Somatic, cognitive, and behavioral symptoms of stress. There are many reasons within our body why stress occurs. Some symptoms of stress in the autonomic nervous system is that blood is diverted to the muscles, increased heart rate, increased breathing rate, increased muscle tension. There are some main symptoms of stress. This causes our body to become tense, prepared for action, fight or flight. With this, we are worried about what is going to happen, causing our body to have these effects. The peripheral nervous system then kicks in after the stressor is gone, returning our body back to normal and bringing homeostasis. Cognitive is referred to our mental stress. Symptoms of this type of stress can be a reduced concentration, able to make certain decisions, making mistakes, narrowing attention, and a loss of esteem. All of these can be seen through distress. With this, it means our performance decreases and we aren't able to play at optimal level of performance. This can be seen in Nick's mind. This can be seen with Nick, with his mind being heavily focused on grades. He's constantly worrying about this. This can affect his performance during the match. Also, he's worried about not enough time to practice techniques. There is then behavioral symptoms of stress. These are things that are visible to one another and are obvious. These can range from talking, eating, walking quickly, moodiness, interrupting conversations, accident to clumsiness. These can happen due to the mind being confused and clustered with stress. This can cause a lot of mistake, especially in sport. This can be seen from Sarah's situation with her shooting percentage decreasing during the matches as she is stressed about the environment which she is in. We then move on to anxiety. This is a state of worry, tension, or unease with the outcome of something that has also caused nervousness as well. Definition of this by Kaplan, H. and Sadok, B. 1996, They stated that anxiety is characterized by a diffuse, unpleasant, vague sense of oppression, often accompanied by autonomic symptoms such as headache, perspiration, tightness in the chest, and mild stomach discomfort. Stress can be caused by anxiousness while being tense and nervous. This builds up and can cause stress. Trait anxiety is where their personality that is stable over time has displayed constant levels of anxiousness. This means they are built prone to worrying. A high level of trait anxiety is likely to become worried in a variety of situations. People with high levels of anxiety are likely to be highly aroused and feel threatened, although there is not much of a threat at all. The opposite to this is state anxiety. State is more in the moment type of anxiety, where they feel different from moment to moment. You can see state anxiety in this case of Sarah. She's got a good shooting score in training, yet falls apart in matches. This is due to anxiousness for losing or the competitiveness. State anxiety is also temporary and forever changing mood. It depends on each situation. This type of anxiety also has two types, cognitive or somatic. Cognitive anxiety is the thought part of anxiety. It is within the mind and affects how we think. This produces fear and worry, nervousness also. This then processes information, and the athlete may produce bad thoughts and negative fear of their performance. This is most likely associated with the inability to concentrate, producing negative thoughts, such as failing or letting someone down. This might be Sarah's fear also with letting her team down. This might be why her score dropped so dramatically. Somatic anxiety is the physical aspect of anxiety, the complete opposite to cognitive. This is associated with increased levels of heart rate and blood pressure. It is also triggered by the cognitive anxiety. With this, the body begins to kick in and increase bodily functions. A couple of things might happen due to this. This is muscle tension, clammy hands, sweating, and a high heart rate. From Nick, we can see this somatic anxiety. His precision accurate shots are less likely to happen from him being so tense and able to focus and more relaxed. We then move on to competitive anxiety. This is something that most athletes face in their careers. This is demands of training or the actual competition, which is more than the athlete's perceived ability and how well they perform. This then increases their stress levels. The graph shows the levels of arousal, which helps with the competitive anxiety. With the optimum level of arousal, they will be able to perform much better. If they are stressed or anxious about the event, we can see their performance will be as high. Every type of athlete feels this. Nick and Sarah will both feel anxious about their sport and ability to deal with this threat. Most elite athletes are trained to control this anxiety, such as a rugby player. When kicking, they focus on something between the post, not the crowd. There are many factors which affect competitive anxiety. This ranges from pre-competition factors and during the competition factors. For pre-competition factors, they may include fear of injury, fear of failure, such as bad decisions making, or playing badly and letting your team down. From the table, we can see many other factors for why a player might be anxious. Then during competition, there is a different range of factors. This could be the crowd, such as them booing or cheering you, becoming injured, or the ending of a match and either winning or losing, which can cause anxiety. There are also many other factors which accompany these. There's also different ways of measuring anxiety. One way of measuring anxiety was produced by Martin Sport Competitive Anxiety Test called SCAT. This is a self-report which can be applied to certain sporting situations. There are 4 factors which are related to competitive anxiety. For example, individual differences. Some may act different with different situations, different types of anxiety, which they might have experienced, and a specific anxiety trait experienced in a competitive situation, and the competition itself. Another way of measuring anxiety is the competitive state anxiety inventory. This is where a self-report is used to measure competitive state anxiety, somatic state anxiety, and self-confidence. It will be given out several times prior to the competition to see the change over time. This discovers baseline levels and compares with pre-competition levels. Arousal is a key part of sport. The levels of arousal determines athlete's level of performance, and each athlete has a certain optimum level of arousal. Few definitions are that arousal is a general psychological and physiological activation, going from the continuum from deep sleep to intense excitement. This was brought by Weinberg and Gold in 2007. It can be categorized as a level of readiness to perform and which prepares the body for action. Arousal uses the functions of the autonomic nervous system for this. This is broken down into the fight or flight response. The reticular activation system regulates the level of arousal and monitors the level of stimulation. This controls how aroused we become. If a player needs to be more aroused, this will increase its stimulation to require the optimum level. The optimum level means the perfect amount of arousal an athlete has to perform their very best. From this graph, we are able to see different levels of arousal. Some players might have different levels and be more aroused at different places. Both somatic and cognitive produce a certain level of arousal. If we go into our match feeling good and aroused, we are more likely to perform much better. If we are calm and not worrying about the game, we also have a high level of arousal, meaning our performance will increase. Yet, this is not the case for both Nick and Sarah. They both have low levels of arousal, meaning their performance is not going to increase. They are also worrying about losing and letting down their team, which affects their cognitive initiative to produce this arousal. There are 4 main theories revolving around arousal. One of these is the drive theory.